Hi, this is Dr. Black. This is the video on necessary and sufficient conditions for my intro to philosophy class. I'm posting this since I wasn't able to be in class on today, Wednesday, August 23rd. Um, but, these things do happen. Okay, still following up on some medical issues. We'll be okay. All right. So, necessity and sufficiency. Hopefully, you all read the reading material to go with this. Again, in the lecture, I'm not going to just recapitulate the reading material. I'm going to sort of expand on it. Let's see here. So the reading material is over a crucial distinction that you're going to need to have well in hand as we go forward, which is the difference between necessity and sufficiency. It sounds like the kind of thing that is common sense, but I find that it's very confusing for a lot of people when we start digging down into the nitty-gritty. So I'm just going to say a few words on it to try to help you get your head around it and make sure that you're not overly baffled by it when the time comes to deploy the concept. Okay. In common parlance, when we say something is necessary, when we say it is necessary to take humanities 1 in order to get your degree from TCC. You have to do it. That's what that means when we say it's necessary. It means you have to do it. In order to graduate from TCC, you must take humanities 1. In order to register to vote, you must be 18 years old and a U.S. citizen, blah, blah, blah. So necessity in this sense is just you gotta, right? You gotta. In order to you gotta Y. But notice that the format of the phrasing when we talk about necessity reverses X and Y. Humanities 1 is necessary to graduate from TCC. Being a U.S. citizen and 18 years old is necessary to register to vote. The thing that you have to have in order to the Y that you have to have, that you gotta, in order to X, is put first when we use the phrasing of necessity. So, when we say X is necessary for Y, logically speaking, we are not saying when we say X is necessary for Y, logically speaking, we are not saying if X, then Y. Because that would say if you're 18 and a citizen of the United States, then you must be registered to vote. But that's not true. You can be 18 and a citizen of the United States and just never register to vote. That's absolutely possible. What we're saying is, when we say X is necessary for Y, what we're saying is Y implies X. That is to say, if you see someone who is registered to vote, you know that they must be 18 and at least 18 and a citizen of the United States. If you know someone who graduated from TCC, you know that they must have taken humanities 1. So when we say X is necessary for Y, logically speaking, what we are saying is Y implies X, not X implies Y. Okay. this would be so much clearer with a blackboard or a whiteboard, but it is what it is. I can go over it again when we meet next. I just want to make sure you have a little bit of this in front of you. Sufficiency is the sort of correlate of necessity. In as much as if you have X, the sufficient condition, then you've got Y. Let's think of a sufficiency condition that works. If you have done all of the assignments in the class with a good grade, that is sufficient to get an A. What that means is, it means that is the situation where X implies Y. If you have done all the assignments, X, with a good grade, then you get an A. Why? It's sufficient. It's enough. This is sufficient to get you where you're going. This is sufficient to fulfill the requirements for the thing that you want. Let's think of another one as an example. It is sufficient. It is sufficient to be eligible. It's sufficient to be allowed to buy alcoholic beverages if you're 21. Being 21 years old is sufficient to allow you to buy alcoholic beverages. That's all you need. You're not required to, but if you want to, that's it. That's all you got to do. There's no other requirements that you need to fulfill. Okay. So when we say X is sufficient for Y, what we mean is if we have X, we have Y. Logically speaking. I know some of the real world examples were a little wonky, but logically speaking, if we say X is sufficient for Y, if we have X, then we have Y. If we say X is necessary for Y, then if we have X, we don't always have Y. But if we have Y, we definitely have X. I'm sure that was super helpful and you all followed it perfectly. Let me see if I can clarify. Necessity is such that we can have more than one necessary condition that needs to be fulfilled. So that you have to have each one, but individually, they're not going to get you where you need to go. Let's go back to graduating from TCC. Taking Humanities 1 is necessary to graduate from TCC. Which means if you know someone who graduated from TCC, they definitely took Humanities 1 because it's necessary. You had to have done that. You must have taken Humanities 1 before you could graduate. But that's not enough, right? You don't just walk into TCC, take Humanities 1, and then they go, yay, you've graduated. That's not the end of it. I'm sure a lot of you are like, can it be? That would be nice. Seriously though, that's not the end of it. That's not all there is. In other words, taking Humanities 1 is necessary, but not sufficient. It's something you have to do to graduate from TCC, taking Humanities 1, but it's not the only thing you have to do. It's not enough. There's a lot of other stuff you got to do. You got to take a bunch of other classes. You got to pay your fees. You got to pass the classes, etc. You got to fill out paperwork, etc., etc., etc. We can make a list of all the things that are necessary to do to graduate from TCC. And in fact, that's part of what your handbook is. That's telling you all the things you have to do to graduate, right? So, we can make a list of all these things that you have to do to graduate. And individually they are necessary because you're not allowed to skip any of them. And if you have graduated, you know that the person did all of those things. You know that the person who's graduated did all the things that they had to do, because if they didn't, they wouldn't get graduated. Jointly, taken together as a group, those things are sufficient. Does that make sense? Individually, necessary. So that you can't say X implies Y. You can't say, well, they took Humanities 1, they must get graduated. No, there's plenty of people we know taking Humanities 1 who have not yet graduated. When you say Humanities 1 is necessary to graduate, what you're saying is, if they've graduated, we know they took Humanities 1, not the other way around. On the other hand, jointly, these items are sufficient. You take Humanities 1, you take the other required classes, you fill out the paperwork, you pay your fees, blah, 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 blah. You've done all the stuff. That whole list, taken as a whole, is sufficient. If you've done all of these things, boom, you can graduate. So, in that case, if list is sufficient to graduate, then if you have list, you have graduate. Does that make sense? Why am I asking? Does that make sense? It's a video. It's a video. You can't respond to me. Reflex is a hell of a thing, I tell you what. I've been teaching for 15 years. It's a reflex. Does that make sense? It's a video! Okay. Necessity and sufficiency. Why am I telling you about this? Because it's something very important that we're going to talk about a lot in this class, which is to say definitions. Now, when I was in English class in high school a million years ago, they taught us how to write a definition. I've been asking every semester my students, did anyone ever teach you how to write a definition? Everyone says no. I guess they don't do that anymore. Here's how you write a definition. You take your item, like a couch. Couch. Well, how about this? Chair. Chair. What group is it a part of? What is the larger group that chair is a part of? We don't want to go too big. We're not going for like the biggest possible group that it's a part of, like objects. We want to go just like the next level up. What is a chair? Well, it's a piece of furniture. Okay, it's a piece of furniture. Okay, that is what we will call the genus. 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 Okay, this is very similar to, you may realize, classifications in biology. There's a reason for that. This is all connected. The genus of chair is furniture. Now, the second part is, how do we distinguish chairs from other pieces of furniture? Now, we're just doing a rough and ready definition. We're not trying to do the perfect definition that covers all cases. We're just doing sort of a, the most, like I said, rough and ready to hand definition. So that's okay if we don't get super detailed, but we can say that what distinguishes chairs from other pieces of furniture is that a chair is meant to be sat upon by one person. We can't just say meant for sitting, because that would include couches and other things. And we can't just say used by one person, because there are other pieces of furniture that are only meant for use by one person that aren't necessarily just meant for sitting. Like a desk. A desk is meant for sitting at, maybe, but mostly for working and writing, and usually by one person. So just saying that a chair is meant for sitting isn't enough to distinguish it. Just saying it's meant for one person isn't enough to distinguish it. But together, saying a chair is a piece of furniture, genus. A chair is a piece of furniture. It's part of the group piece of furniture. And it's meant for sitting on by one person. That latter part is the differentia. We have the genus, the group that the item that we're defining is a part of, and then the way in which we tell it apart from other members of that group, which is the differentia. Chair is a piece of furniture, genus, meant for sitting on by one person, differentia. You have a definition of chair. It's not the world's most detailed definition. We could drill down and make it more elaborate, but that is a start. That's a good start. We could, like I said, make it more elaborate by being more specific with the genus, saying furniture meant to be sat upon. It's a piece of furniture meant to be sat upon. You can specify the genus that way, narrowing the group a little, and then the differentia would be by one person. We could make the differentia a little more specific by noting that chairs have backs, usually. Whatever. But the point is, we have a basic method for defining things. Genus and differentia. You take your item you want to define, you tell me what group it is, larger group it is a member of, and then you tell me the characteristics upon which we distinguish it from other members of that group. Alright. Why am I telling you this, and how the hell does it relate to necessity and sufficiency? Because a definition like that is just a grouping of necessary and sufficient conditions. A chair must be a piece of furniture. It's necessary. It must be meant for sitting. It must be meant for sitting upon by one person. These are all necessary features of a chair. And taken together, they are sufficient to specify chair. If you have a piece of furniture meant for sitting upon by one person, you have a chair. That's just what that is. It's sufficient. Definitions are just collections of necessary and sufficient conditions. That's all they are. Usually it is a collection of necessary conditions that are jointly sufficient, but we'll get into the permutations of that deeper in the semester. What I want you to focus on right now is that it's important to understand the difference between necessary and sufficient conditions, because as we go forward in the semester, we're going to try to define abstract terms. We're going to try to give definitions of them, which means we're going to be giving necessary and sufficient conditions for something to qualify as justice, love, friendship, knowledge, whatever. So the faffing about with necessary and sufficient conditions isn't just because I want to throw new terminology at you. It's because if you don't understand necessary and sufficient conditions, you're going to struggle when it comes to defining our terminology. We want to get clear about some very slippery ideas. And in order to do that, we have to be very specific about what we mean when it comes to those ideas. And so we're going to try to lay out plausible sets of necessary and sufficient conditions, which is why you need to know that. Okay, I was going to say any questions. Again, habit is a hell of a drug. It's a video. All right. That's what I've got for now. Normally, I know this is very short for a lecture, but normally there's a lot of questions and examples and back and forth with the classroom on this. But since it's a video, there really isn't. I will take some questions on this when we meet again. So on Monday. So please review the video and please do the reading. Again, this will make much more sense with the reading. And then we'll just try to get back into it on Monday. Okay, great. Can't wait to see you again. Bye.